You've just joined the motorcycle fraternity and your lifelong dream is to one day be cruising down the highway on your very own Harley-Davidson. Well, now you can do that even if you're restricted by one of these. For the first time, Harley-Davidson has introduced an L-plate approved motorcycle, the Street 500. Now, a learner legal Harley-Davidson is slightly at odds with the brand and the people who typically buy these machines. But the rationale is pretty straightforward. 6 out of the top 10 selling road bikes in Australia last year were learner legal. So let's get to some of the key points of this machine. It's powered by a 500cc V-twin engine, and power is belt driven via a 6-speed transmission. The 6-speed transmission is a really silky unit, it's easy to use and it's got a decent spread of ratios. Now, throwing a leg over this thing, the first thing that you notice is its low seating position. And unlike traditional Harleys, this has actually got quite an upright seating position. What that means is that the bike is quite manoeuvrable at low speeds. However, taller riders might find the Street 500's 709mm seat height a little too restrictive. Its other ergonomic bugbear is the mirrors, which are small and difficult to use in heavy traffic. Now, the Street 500 is right at home as a touring machine. The engine has plenty of low-down torque, powers out fairly well, though it's definitely not the quickest thing going. Now, out on the open road, the Harley is quite easy to navigate, though you will note by the wear marks on these pegs, it's definitely not a fast cornering machine. By the same token, the brakes on the Street 500 definitely aren't the best out there, and for a learner it's probably something that you want to take note of before you take it out on the road. Now, the biggest disappointment with this engine has to be that standard exhaust note. It sounds more like a sewing machine than a regular Harley-Davidson. Built out of India, it's obvious that the Street 500 was constructed on a budget. The switchgear is exclusively plastic and looks a little bland, while the instrument cluster offers little in the way of readings, with just an odometer and trip meter. Now, the Street 500 probably isn't the easiest bike to go out and get your L's on, as we found today when we were doing some of the courses. It can be a little bit tricky at low speed, particularly if your confidence isn't up, but once it's up and cruising and in daily traffic where you don't have too many tight turning circumstances, this thing is actually quite an easy thing to ride in daily conveyance. The most favourable element of the Street 500 has to be its price, coming in at $9,995 right away, several $1,000s cheaper than any other product in Harley-Davidson's Australian portfolio, and an ideal entry point for budding enthusiasts. So is the Street 500 befitting of the Harley-Davidson badge? Well, up against the brand's flagship machines, it might be perceived as a little bit lacklustre. But in many ways it typifies what the learner experience is about. It's fun, adventurous, and best of all, cheap.